Welcome back. So right now we're looking at something like this where we have this huge alert popping up. That's fine, but I want something a bit more slick, like what's inside the forms inside Bootstrap. So I'm on a get bootstrap com, I'm down at components, I'm down at forms, and I'm all the way down to validation and I think server side. Yeah, here. So you have some examples here. I wanted to do something like this where it shows a red error or a green border, right, around the component if it's actually good or bad. So that's what we want to kind of aim for. And the cool thing with doing this is you're going to learn about the ngClass, this guy right here, because that's a pretty powerful thing to learn, that we can actually change the class on runtime. Let me try and show you what I mean. What I want to happen now is, first of all, I want to kind of show this red border. Let's start off by doing that. We can put in this border by just putting in the is invalid on the input field. So let's try and jump to our code, find our input field right here for the first name, and put in is invalid. There we go. Let's try and jump into our solution. Now you'll see this red border, right? But still, when I put in stuff, I get my huge ugliness down here. I want it to be just the text that turns red. That's all I want. So jumping back to the forms code right here, it seems that I need something like a class that provides invalid feedback right here. So let's go and grab that one and put it inside our code. Now, I made a mistake last lesson because I put the actual controls, all of this validation and warning, I put that out one level too far. So I'm going to grab it all and put it into the label right here. Under the label, there's now input and then this huge div of all the different errors, but it's inside the label now. So you have to move it if you didn't already, or else this won't work for you. Good. So now instead of showing the alert right here, the class danger, I'm going to remove that, and I'm going to grab instead the invalid feedback right here. I can also just type it, invalid feedback. There we go. I'll save this now. Let's just have a look at how it looks now. So putting in something, now it says name must be at least 2 characters long, right? Removing it, name is required. It just looks better in my mind. But to actually do this, notice this guy is red no matter what happens. Even if I put in good stuff, it's still a red border. So we need to kind of figure out how we can make this change if the data is now valid. I want to change it into a green border. And if it's invalid, I want to change it into the red border, right? So we have to figure this out. And we can use the ngClass. And if you go in there, you can see here how you can actually, taking that ngClass and putting it on an object, we can start defining, depending on if things are true or false, we can start adding extra classes in runtime, right? So let me try and show you this in action. What I'm going to do is I'm going to say, I want this guy to be a form control, and then I'm going to use the ngClass right here. ngClass. There we go. ngClass, not model, class. Let's try again. ngClass. Class. I'm using this voice because I can. So now we have the ngClass right here, and we want this guy to kind of have an object in there. So I'm going to do the curly brackets dot end, and that object is going to select and show is invalid if things are, let's just put in true right now. So that means that it should show invalid right away. Let's try and jump back to the code and see if this works. It's red. But what if things are actually false? Let's try and put that in there. Then it shouldn't show. And boink, is invalid is gone, right? So this is a way for me to kind of manipulate the classes on runtime. So what do I need to put in here? Well, you probably already guessed it. I'm going to put this into multiple lines now, just to make this easier for you guys to read, because we're going to kind of put all this information in here that we have in our ngIf. All of this beautiful information right here, we're going to grab that and put that in here and say we want to show is invalid if this guy is actually invalid, right? So let me try and put all that in there. Now we can make this as a method, and I'm going to do that in a later lesson because this starts to be a lot of information. So putting in stuff now, notice it just turned red, removing it, it's required, putting in enough, it gone back to not being red. Sweet, 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 it works, right? So now you guys kind of know how you can change classes on runtime, right? So every time I do something, I change the class directly using the ngClass directive. This is a freaking awesome thing to learn. So try to understand the ngClass. All I'm saying is, if this guy is actually true, no matter what I put in here, then go and put in this class. And I can, again, because it's Angular, it's changing all the time. So as soon as that is true, I'll show it right away. Let me try and change this a bit next lesson, making a few methods to make it easier for us to work with this. See you in the next lesson.